Hi, I'm Susan from the Sewing Escape, and I wanted to go on with this quilt and show you how to properly attach borders. I'm at the point where I need to do the borders. My instructions had told me to go ahead and cut all of these and sew them together, but in two pieces for this, the long sides and then the separate sides. I like to sew my borders all together in one long strip. And then just like with the sashing rows, I can go ahead and roll it out, cut to measure, cut to fit what I need. And then that way I'm always ensuring that the seams are in a separate place. I did the same thing where I used my corner ruler to make the angled cuts. And I have the joins as a 45. So that way it looks really nice and clean. And like I said, I've got all of it for the whole quilt. I improvised because they're so wide, and I just cut a pool noodle to fit. I wanted to keep it nice and neat. I didn't know exactly when I would get back to this part of the project. So I'm gonna put this aside for a moment. And here's what I need to do. I'm gonna attach the long sides first. So what I have to do is measure 3 times. And then I'm gonna record those, and I'm gonna take the average, and that is what my 2 borders need to be trimmed to. They have to be the same length. That side and this side, they have to be the same exact number. And then that way I can fit them and the quilt together. I can ease in anything, and I can keep my quilt square and my top flat. Really important. So let's get started. What I'm gonna do is I've got my paper and pencil. I usually like pencil because then that way I don't get anything on the quilt that doesn't belong. I'm gonna take and start at the top. I'm not doing the exact edge because sometimes the edges do move a little bit. They're not a great measurement. So I'm gonna go down the center row, the first spool here. So I'm just putting it down at the top. I don't need anybody's help. Ooh, I found a pin. I don't know why. And all the way down, making sure I'm not gonna stretch and pull my quilt top either. I'm not gonna tug on it. And I'm gonna make sure though that things lay flat. And my first number is great. It's 74.5 on the dot. So I'm gonna write that down as measurement number 1. Now I need to go and do measurement number 2. Okay, measurement number 2 is gonna go down the middle. So for me, the middle is right in between these. I'm starting at the top again. I do need to straighten it just a little bit, but I'm not tugging and stretching my quilt top when I do that. Oh, I came out with the same number. 74.5. So far 2 of my numbers match. Let's go on to the last measurement for the side before I cut. Okay, so this is the 3rd measurement, the last side that I need to measure. Because of what I'm doing in here, I needed a little help from some pattern weights because it was slipping off the table with me. They're great in a pinch. You never know when you need them. So I'm gonna do this last one. Again, I'm not gonna go on the edge. I'm gonna come down this, the center of the spools, and check and see if I get a 3rd matching number or it's a little bit off. Oh, okay, that's not bad. It's 74 and really 5/8, so it's just off a smidge. But since I have 2 numbers that are the same, the 74.5, 74.5, 74 and 5/8, I'm gonna cut 2 borders at 74.5. My 2 borders are gonna be 74.5. So let me begin. I'm going to straighten out the one side because I have the angled cut down here. So I'm just gonna take that off. And now I can start measuring and pull it straight. It is great if you can find a nice flat surface to do this on. and my number was 74.5. I'm going to go down the center and take my tools and move them over to where I need them. Look at my paper again just to double check. Uh-oh, this is a good one. I needed 74.5. If I do that, 74.5, I am actually, 74.5 would be right here. So you can see that I would be cutting into my join, and I don't want to cut there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and connect in a different place. So let me come back. I'm just going to randomly, I know I have a lot. I'm going to restart. Let's see if this will work. So let's see if 74.5, oh, 74.5 would clearly miss this intersection. So I'm gonna sacrifice some fabric down here, but don't worry, I'm gonna save it for another project, maybe like an EPP project or something. So this one's gonna go away, and now I'm gonna measure and see if I can get my 74.5. And get it in a nice spot that makes sense. And it's much better, it's all the way down there. Here we go. Slide the ruler under. I'm going to use my solid black line at the bottom to double check. I'm making sure my tape measure and my ruler match. Toss away the tape measure so you don't trim it. And there we go. That's border number 1. I have to repeat this and do the exact same size for the second one. I have my 2 lengths cut for the outside borders. Now what I have to do is same thing I did with the sashing row. I need to find the midpoints, and that way I can make sure these are even and they help keep my top square and flat. So I take it and I'm folding in half to find the middle, a little finger press. I'm going to use a pin and one that looks a little bit different to hold the spot where I did my finger pressing. And then I'm going to find the quarter points because that was the midpoint. So I just take it and I fold this side now. Tiny finger press. I like a special pin like the flower head so it doesn't look the same as the others that I'm using. And I'll find the quarter point on this side too. Again, it's really important to keep these pins in place because they have to match up with your quilt top. And now I'll do the second one. It's time to put the border onto the quilt top. So the pins that I marked are going to need to have a matching point to the quilt top. So I'm taking my ends, I'm going to fold it in half because this is the true half of the quilt top, and that way I can match it to the true half of the border. So I finger press right there. I'm going to open it up and just put a pin to hold my spot. Sometimes it's a little easier to see than others. Here we go. That's my middle. Now I need to find, and sometimes depending on the size of your quilt, it could get kind of bulky, but it's still, you've got to do it. Every time you add borders, you have to do this. Here is the fold for my quarter points. There's one, and I'm going to mark it. And let me go find the last one. This is the last quarter point. These pins are going to match up to the ones that I did on the border. Find a special pin that looks different than the others. And now I'll put the 2 pieces together. Okay, I'm gonna take the border, put it on the quilt top. I'm gonna start by matching my 2 ends together. I wanna pin that because I don't want it to slip or move or get away or do anything different. Okay, the reason I do this is anything else that I pin now, because I do need to pin, those stretches are too long to sew. I like to put pins every about like inch, inch and a half. If I don't, the fabric will move around, but I need to make any adjustments inside from pin to pin. I'm gonna start here, and what I have to do is find the midpoint between these two pins. So I'm gonna lay it down, and I don't see any ruffling. I'm gonna find my midpoint, anchor a pin, and now I'm gonna split the difference, and I'm gonna ease in between here. And I'm gonna do this all up and down the whole side until it's done. Okay, I have pinned the whole border on this one side, and now it's time to go sew it. I just came back from the sewing machine and I have my border on. Now I'm gonna press this. I'm not gonna press this open, I'm gonna press to one side. So it's time for me to do that. I will take it to the ironing board. All right, it's all pressed on. I have it nice and flat. I'll show you the back. I press to one side because it's a very outside border, so I don't feel like I need to press this one open. I'm gonna go and do the exact same thing to the other side, and I'll be right back. I put on my two borders. They're both pressed, and now it's time to do the top and the bottom. I'm gonna repeat the exact same process, and it's really critical you do this. I'm gonna take 3 measurements. I'm gonna measure the side, the middle, and the other side, and take an average. So I laid out my tape, and the first one is 71 1/4. And I'll get the other 3 numbers. I have my 3 numbers, and they are slightly different. I have 71 1/4, 71, 71 1/8. So I'm gonna take the one that's in the average, the one that's in the middle. I'm gonna cut to 71 1/8. I'm gonna take and do 2 strips at this exact number, and I'm gonna repeat the process where I pin in the middle and the midpoints and match them up together. I'll be right back. I finished my quilt top. I added the top border, I added the bottom border, I took it to my ironing station and I pressed the seams, and then after that I made sure to press the entire top so everything is nice and flat. Took a great measurement, trimmed any loose threads that I have, and I am basically finished with the quilt top. Next is quilting it, and that is a whole nother topic. Thank you so much for watching how to attach borders to your quilts, and all the other little tidbits that I shared with you. Be sure to follow us on social media and look out for some other videos. Thank you so much, and sew yourself a beautiful day.